Thought it'd be interesting to look at some parts here. They were in the 1970s manuals, but not actually in set 10. Unless I state otherwise, they were never in any set. Axle rod, 5.5 inch, introduced 1962. It was in the clock kit and the 78 to 80s manuals. Spoked wheel, introduced 1915, in no set after 1936. A half-inch pulley, metal, introduced 1905, and that was in no set after 1969, when the pulley in use became plastic. Pinion, 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch face, introduced 1926. Adrift, introduced 1932, not in any sets after 1946. Propeller blade, introduced 1927, was in some early sets. Perforated slotted strip, 5.5 inch, introduced 1926. A small hook, that was in set 2 and 3. And a wire hook, which was in set 1. That tiny thing there is a coupling for spring cord, introduced 1909, and sometime during the 70s it was no longer listed in set 10. A windmill sail, introduced 1934, not very useful because it's not very scalable, wouldn't look good on a very big windmill, but might be used for decoratively on other models. Short coupling, introduced 1954, it was in the clock kit. A 7/32 of an inch grub screw, introduced 1922, quite useful for bolting strips together where space is limited. Flat plate, 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch, introduced 1962 and was in the 78 to 80s sets. Screwed rod, 8 inch, 5 inch, 4.5 inch. They were introduced in 1921, except for the 5 inch rod, which was introduced in 1918, and that was also in the 78 to 80s sets. Braced girders, 3.5 inch, 7.5 inch, 9.5 inch, all introduced in 1962. A heeled for loom, introduced 1915, discontinued 1940 to 1953, and finally withdrawn in 1973. A wood roller, introduced 1916, not in any set after 1936. A 3.5 inch rack strip, introduced 1919, not in any set after 1947 because they started using a longer 6.5 inch rack strip. Girder frame, introduced 1919, loaded sack, introduced 1920, cone pulley, also introduced 1920, cam, introduced 1970, ship's funnel, introduced 1922, also not very scalable, wouldn't work on a large ship. Flange bracket, right and left, introduced 1923, and a motor tyre, 1.5 inch, introduced 1927. Single pulley block, triple pulley block, both introduced 1927. Large tooth quadrant, introduced 1970, and a large tooth quadrant pinion, introduced 1928. The big discrepancy in introductions there is because this part replaced a geared roller bearing which used to mesh with that part. Gear ring, introduced 1933. Steering wheel, 2.5 inch, introduced 1926. Not much difference in size from the 1 3/4 inch steering wheel. Road wheel, 4.5 inch, introduced 1962. Rumour is that the tool for making this was lost or broken, and so it was discontinued in the mid-70s because of that. It suddenly doesn't show in the manuals anymore. Transparent plastic plate, 3.5 inch by 2.5 inch, and blue plastic plate, 3.5 inch by 2.5 inch, both introduced 1962. A strip plate, 7.5 inch by 2.5 inch, introduced 1962. Helical gears, half-inch and 1.5-inch, introduced 1935. Triple rod connectors with no boss and boss, introduced 1954, and these were in the clock kit. A rod with keyway and a key bolt, both introduced 1956, and they were in the gears set. And finally, narrow strips. We have 3.5-inch in the clock kit and 78 to 80s sets, 4.5-inch in the Pocket Meccano set, clock kit and 78 to 80s sets, and finally the 5.5-inch, which was just in the clock kit.